Going into COVID, sometimes we had a very reactionary approach. People just needed to stay home from work. We needed to figure out how to get people the supplies, the resources that they needed so that they could work from home. And maybe even some people were told immediately that they had to be laid off. Other organizations may have reacted quickly, however, were very strategic. How could we utilize this time to get essential projects done? Do we have some equity built up in the business that we could have people spend this time really fulfilling their passion and getting some of the things and doing the work that they would have loved to have done earlier that they wouldn't have had time for otherwise? Similarly, many organizations I've spoken with and have coached have been able to look at people's strengths and their skill sets as a wonderful asset to the organization and redeployed them to other core functions doing essential services work. The good news is, those of you who identify with that latter group, you're going to find returning people to work and back to their roles or back to the workplace, if in fact they did have to end up being laid off in the end, much easier because you treated the person as the whole individual. The downside is if your organization took the first approach where it really was a numbers game, like people are chess pieces. How many people do we need to lay off? What roles are we going to lay off? Regardless of the person, individuals may feel the sting of that. Let me give you some of my suggestions as a recognition expert about how you can either reduce the sting if people felt like they were just quickly disregarded, and we granted, perception is reality, so even if you didn't treat people like that, there could be some folks who feel that way. And also for those of you who want to make sure that as thoughtful as you were laying people off or in redeploying them, you want to make sure you have the same thoughtfulness going into this next phase. Here are some suggestions. Number one, return to rituals as quickly as you can. In fact, maintain rituals, adjust your rituals if you haven't done so already. If normally you would go out on Friday afternoons or Friday evenings, maybe there's some way of doing a virtual Friday session, even if it's only once a month. If you normally celebrate birthdays, how are you keeping that going? Even for the folks who are laid off right now, how can you keep that going so that the return doesn't feel like this juxtaposition? And anyone whose birthday happened during that layoff time is all of a sudden forgotten about. Or if you've forgotten about some people, do a belated birthday celebration. That's perfectly okay. Similarly, if you would have things like baby showers, but it's just not going to be safe for the next year or 2 years to have a baby there, why don't you have virtual baby showers for people? Start some of the things or shapeshift some of the rituals that you normally would have so that it is healthy and safe for everyone. Number two, some of the things that you would do to build engagement and build fun, such as starting the start of your meeting with a positive story or a recognition reflection, such as who's somebody who really helped you. Why don't you keep that going? Or try to find some way, even if you're having very brief meetings, to try to keep people off of video conferencing as long as possible. Don't completely abandon it. Bring it back even just to some extent. And then of course, any recognition rituals that you normally would depend on face-to-face, find a way to make sure that it's happening when you're not all together. Unless you have very strict rules that don't allow you to do it, include your people who are laid off. So if it's somebody's 25-year work anniversary coming up, and in the month of May or June, you normally would have a celebration for all of those folks, could you do a virtual celebration? And instead of paying for people to come into a venue and you pay the caterer, send food to people's homes and then invite people online, make it fun, energizing. If you had a theme, keep your theme or shift your theme so that it fits it. If you normally would have thank you cards, do virtual thank you cards, or buy something like send out cards where you can be sending cards to people's homes. Whatever you would normally do to show and express appreciation, there's many ways in which you can do that, including with the people who are not currently working full-time in the organization. The key thing that is going to help us come out of this is that people don't feel like we've just moved them around like pieces on a checkerboard, but in actual fact, it was seeing the person as the resourceful, talented individual that they are. People know when they are appreciated as an individual. This includes folks who have the same role of 1,000 other people in the organization. If they don't just feel like a number, they won't treat your organization like just a paycheck. And this is true in times of pandemic or not. My name's Sarah McVanel. I hope you feel that this is helping to feed into your greatness magnified. If you think this video would be helpful for somebody, feel free to share it. And of course, never miss a week by subscribing.